This is an SM Media production.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the Celtic Report right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike. It's a pleasure as always to be your host, and I'm delighted to welcome my guest this week. It's a pleasure to welcome on the show again, Josh McCafferty.
Thank you very much for having me, Scott. Great to be back on talking about Celtic after a relatively uneventful match.
I wish we'd picked better games. I know we kind of do this in advance, but there's not a lot under the bonnet here, is there? There's a goal early on, there's two missed penalties, and it's fairly bang average after that. But I think it's probably the post-match comments that are probably the most interesting out of it all. But overall, and similar to how Rangers got on at the weekend as well, they won 1-0. It wasn't a great performance. These are the games you look at the end of the season if you win a title is massive.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's end of January, cold afternoon, the pitch is terrible, and you just want to get the 3 points, and that's pivotal, and that's what happened. I was going up to the game and I was thinking Celtic could easily win this by 5 or 6, given Ross County on a horrendous run of form. Derek Adams has been very condescending recently, very unlikable character, let's just say. And obviously when Alistair Johnson scored the goal early doors, I was thinking, right, this could end up being 5 or 6 and you get the penalty. And then obviously Louis Palmer shockingly misses twice, which is disgraceful, but move on from it. And the game kind of petered out from there on in. Paulo Bernardo missed the open goal, should have buried it. There was also a chance for Carter Vickers in the second half, but credit to Ross County, full credit to them, because unlike a lot of teams that came to Celtic Park, they weren't willing to waste time. George Wickens, as soon as he got the ball, he looked to distribute it out. His distribution wasn't the greatest, but in fairness to them, they weren't wasting time and they were looking to play out for the back and actually play football, which is not like the home fans at Celtic Park have seen a lot of times this season. So that was good to see. And Ross County, as much as they're in a bit of crisis and they've been in poor form recently, were actually very impressive in this one. They are unfortunate for me not to get a point out of the game at the end. Josh Sims goes on a run, plays on Jordan White, and Joe Hart has to make a save. So hats off to Ross County. But the main thing for Celtic in this game is getting the 3 points, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, and I think obviously like with Ross County, people that have listened to the pods, not just the Celtic one, but other pods that we've done in the channel, my opinion on Derek Adams is that I think Derek Adams is came here thinking that this is a far poorer level than League Two. And I think it's against teams like Celtic that you might see Ross County to best effect when there's more. Do you know what I mean? When there's more to do.
Yeah.
And I just again, I do think Ross County are a decent side now. I'm not a big Derek Adams fan. I don't think he's helped himself, but I thought they were good, to be honest.
I thought they played. See, some of the football they were playing, it was very impressive. Playing out for the back, there was 3 debutants in the team. The keeper George Wickens was one of them. I thought he was excellent to save 2 penalties. It was incredible, and the save he made for Carter Vickers in the second half, at front post was absolutely brilliant. So a brilliant performance for him, considering especially he's only had one full season on loan out of Fulham, and it was at Maidstone United. So very impressive.
He's kicking himself for that after the weekend.
Exactly. But he came in, done really well, and fair enough to Ross. I have a lot of respect for them. I remember Livingston coming to Celtic Park just before Christmas, the 23rd of December, I believe it was, and they didn't register a shot the whole afternoon. Albeit Ross County yesterday only had 1 shot on goal. They were still impressive in the way they played football, so fair enough to them.
In terms of the team selection, there was a couple of interesting bits of news. I think kind of 9 out of 11 was fine. Carter Vickers came back in. I thought Nawrocki was quite unlucky to see himself on the bench. Were you surprised Bernabei get the call?
Not particularly, no. There's a lot of fans calling for Mitchell Frame to start. Obviously, I've got a wee youth and loan account on Twitter, and I didn't think he was going to get the nod. He played for the B team down at Southampton on Wednesday night, so they'd only had day recovery on Thursday, then straight into training pre-match on Friday, so he wasn't going to play. And it was really a toss-up between playing Bernabei or putting on Liam Scales at left-back and bringing Carter Vickers and Nawrocki as the 2 centre-halves. But he's opted to go with Bernabei, the natural left-back, the more attacking full-back option. And against Ross County, I think that was probably the wise decision. albeit Bernabei, I don't think he was too impressive in the match. Only really thing he done was put the cross in for Alistair Johnston's goal. And not too impressive was Bernabei, but no, I wasn't really surprised that he got the nod, to be honest. It was a 50-50 decision. But one thing Bernabei's performance and the whole of the left-back situation at the game on Saturday did for me was highlight the need to sign one before the end of the January transfer window on Thursday. So it'll be interesting to see if they can pull anything off.
Yeah, we'll get into signings later on, as I'm sure we've probably got our own opinions on it. But as you say, after a minute, it looked as if it was going to be a fairly easy street for Celtic. I thought it was a good ball from Bernabei. Obviously, it gets to Johnson, does stay onside. It's tight. You can, again, some people will think it's maybe on or off. I don't know, but it gets the ball in. It obviously gets a bit of luck along the way. It's given. And you think, if I start, and I thought, I've been of the opinion with Alistair Johnson, I don't know about yourself, since he came in last season, I thought he was marvellous. When he was there, I thought the second half of the season last year, I thought he was instrumental. And he's just struggled to really kind of match that, the kind of first half of the season. But this could be a big goal for him and kind of try to find that kind of form again.
Yeah, I agree with that point. I think first half this season, he's been particularly poor, not been at the standard he was in the first part of his spell at Celtic, but to come in yesterday, I think he was really pleased with himself after the game, reading into some of his comments, to get a goal, the winning goal, and keep a clean sheet as a defender. He can't really do any more than that. And that's what he said. So it was great to see him get that goal. Obviously, I think he looked across to Brendan Rodgers in the dugout with his kind of arms out in celebration after he scored. So it was great to see. And yeah, like you say, this could be the turning point for him in the season. I think he knows he's probably not been up to the standard. And good to see him get that goal. It was a good strike, actually, despite it kind of bobbling over the line. And I initially thought it was going to get given offside, if I'm honest. I thought Bernabei had touched it and I thought he was offside. Obviously, VAR checks it and the goal was given, thankfully, for Celtic. But yeah, Alistair Johnson, it's a tough one. He gets a lot of criticism from fans nowadays because they obviously notice that the level isn't there. He had a tough act to replace in Josip Juranovic, and I remember arguments coming from Celtic fans that he was even better than Juranovic in the first half of the season, second half of last season, first half of 2023, but it's kind of dropped off. But partly that drop-off could be put down to potentially Brendan Rodgers' style, changing manager, a lack of competition, because let's be honest, Anthony Ralston isn't really pushing him for a place in that Celtic team. So that's maybe something they need to address in the summertime. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, so it'll be a big confidence booster for Johnston, and happy to see him get his goal because it's one he deserved.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. But we've seen, obviously, Bernardo's quite unlucky with an effort, probably should bury it. But Celtic got a penalty after 25 minutes. Right, where do we start here? Because I think there's an overall concern. Certainly, I think there is anyway, because Palmer takes the penalty. It's a good save. There's obviously a retake because a VAR check, but he puts it in the exact same place now.
Yeah,
I think, am I right in saying that's the 5th penalty Celtic missed this season?
I'm not entirely sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is.
Turnbull missed one.
Yeah,
Palmer's missed one. I think Hatate's missed one as well.
Hatate did miss one, yep.
And then Palmer's missed 2.
Yeah,
yesterday. So
probably is the 5th. Yeah.
This is a problem.
Yeah, certainly it is a problem. I don't think Palmer should have taken the second one yesterday. Certainly of that opinion. So one thing about Luis Palmer's penalties is the first one he took for Celtic, he scored it, I think, and he does the wee kind of stutter in his run up, and he scored that one. Next one he takes, he does the stutter again, and he misses it. So the next one he got after the one he missed, he didn't do the stutter in his run up, and he just ran up and banged it in. And now that's what I thought he was going to do for the first penalty yesterday. I was like, he's not going to mess about. He's going to just put it in. But he does the stutter. The Ross County keeper, Wickens, doesn't move. Guesses the right way, and Palmer shoots and saves it. Then Palmer takes the second one and goes the exact same way. He shouldn't have taken the second one. Strictly of that opinion, he was very eager to get the ball, let's just say, and take the second penalty. And if you're going to have that confidence in yourself, you've got to back it up and you've got to score. And obviously he didn't do that. So Brendan Rodgers said it is something that they're going to look at now. It should be something that they're looking at. I think he's on record in the past saying Kyogo's not a good enough striker of the ball to take a penalty.
I think he's only had one, am I right in saying, away to Kilmarnock last season, and he missed it. So
yeah,
I think the fact that Kyogo's not volunteering himself thinks he doesn't have confidence in which is fine. And we see across the city, Tavernier takes Rangers penalties, and do you know what I mean? So
it's something
that needs addressed badly.
Yeah, certainly, because 5 penalties missed in a season is nowhere near good enough, and that could have been a game where Ross County got up the park and equalised later on in the match, and it ends 1-1. And Luis Palma's probably getting more pelters than he already is, let's be honest. Potential penalty takers, it's obviously been through probably about half the team by now, given the amount of penalties we've missed. Palma, Hatate, Kyogo, so other players are going to have to step up. I quite fancy Paulo Bernardo, Mattarelli potentially to take some. I wouldn't have any confidence in Cal McGregor taking one, if I'm honest. He always goes bottom right. Keepers have begun to solve that unless he starts switching it up. It's something they could look to, but I wouldn't mind Joe Hart taking one, given the one he scored in pre-season for Man City.
Can I throw a name at you here, and you could maybe say...
On you go.
If Kuhn do it. I think Kuhn took penalties for Rapid Vienna.
Kuhn's a shout. Kuhn's a very good shout. When Celtic got the free kick, I don't think it was in the sports scene highlights if any listeners are watching it, just outside the box in the second half, Kuhn was on. I thought he was going to take it. Obviously, I think it was Mattarelli who took it, kind of floated over the bar. But yeah, Kuhn's a very good shout if he's on the pitch. Dyson could be another shout. So there's plenty of options in the team, but it is something that needs to be addressed, and they need to start taking the chances from the spot kicks, because it could easily come back to bite you, and Celtic are lucky it hasn't so far.
Yeah, and get into the kind of rest of the first half, it was fairly non-eventful. Ross County had a chance to hit the bar. Second half, kind of early stages, there was some decent bits. I thought Palma, again, I think it's a classic case with Palma that he's going to be capable of some brilliance, but I thought yesterday a lot of times he was quite wasteful.
Yeah, I think Louis Palma's one of these players where, similar to Olivier Ncham, where he's either at the top of his game and he's absolutely brilliant, or he's had an absolute stinker like he did on Saturday, and just going to have to deal with that. But it's up to him to bring that sort of consistency in his performances. He did have some good moments in the game, a couple of cut inside shots, traditionally like he loves to do. But yes, I'm glad Nicholas Kuhn's been signed, because it's going to push him and give him more competition. And Abada coming back as well is going to give him more competition, and that is only good for a player like him who's probably had that left wing position to absolute self over the past 3-4 months. When you look at the injuries, unavailabilities Celtic have had, so good that there's competition coming into the team now to push him.
Yeah, and like before January, you're looking at that wing area thinking that Abada's injured.
Yeah,
Maeda is away to
Ike Johnson playing half the games.
That as well, and now it looks a position if everybody's fit and firing. It's a very, very stacked position in both wings. I want to touch on Kyogo, because I've kind of had this conversation a few times where we know he can sometimes only need one chance, but I watched yesterday and I thought there's so many times where he's just looking so starved of anything. And one chance that I think it was Palma put the ball in, and just straight away the goalie was out, and that's the only kind of real foothold I remember Kyogo having in the game, where he was close to something.
I feel sorry for him. Because he's certainly not getting the service he was used to compared to last season now. Whether that is down to Celtic having a lack of thorough, real chance creators who can break lines of low blocks, your likes of Hatate, who's been injured half the season, he's at the Asian Cup. Losing up like Jota is massive, and Abada being out half the season, because we know the link up those two have. So he's not getting the service, and the absences of those players is probably contributing to that. But even still, he keeps making the runs, and the amount of times when Celtic are playing the ball between the centre halves that he is constantly on the move is very frustrating to see him getting frustrated, if you know what I mean, when he's making those moves. And the likes of Scales and Carter Vickers are not taking the risk of just lobbing the ball over the top for him and letting him run onto it. Celtic Park's a massive pitch. If you do it once or twice, 3 times a game, he's going to get onto the end of at least one of them. I remember a goal he scored last season at home to St Mirren, where he one-on-one with the keeper just lobs it over him beautifully, and that all came from a ball over the top. So he constantly makes those runs, he's constantly willing to move, and he's got great movement, so I feel sorry for him. But if he gets service, he's that type of player who will absolutely thrive off it, and we know the talent he has, so that shouldn't be overlooked. But at the minute, it is a bit of a concern for Celtic. It's been a concern all season, let's be honest. He's not really hit the heights. He's not really had a run where it's been 3 goals in 3 games, 4 goals in 3 games. Yeah, it's all kind of been dribs and drabs, but he does come up with the big moments. You look at the 2 Glasgow derbies, he's decided them both. He's got the winning goal in them both at Ibrox and comes up with that magnificent goal at Celtic Park. So he does have that in him, but at the same time, if he's not doing it in the games against the likes of Ross County at home, it's a growing concern.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fair. What did you think of Kuhn coming on? I thought he did fine. I thought you could see there was a bit of he's direct, he's neat and tidy in the ball, and again, it's probably a good kind of first game for him in terms of that he immediately gets a feel for what Scottish football could be like when the pitch was awful, and those are the tight games that he maybe needs to be the kind of contributing factor in times. A good start for him.
Yeah, I don't think he could have had a better game, like you said, to introduce him to Scottish football. And Celtic, 10 minutes on the left-hand side, 10 minutes on the right-hand side, so we kind of get a flavour of what he can offer in each position. Obviously, you can't really judge much off a 20-minute cameo, but he looked pretty fast, eager to take on his man, eager to flash a couple of balls across goal. And that's only the start, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on from here on in. Obviously, the next 3 games, as we know, are absolutely huge and extremely tough. So it's a big chance for Nicholas Kuhn to announce himself to the Celtic support in those matches. He probably will get the start in the next match over Lewis Palmer, potentially. That could be something Brendan does. But yeah, I'm excited. I was excited by the signing when he was brought in, and it was good to see him make the debut. I thought he could have made it a week earlier against Bucky Thistle and potentially got a goal there to break his duck early doors, but obviously fitness was an issue. So good to see him get in the park now, and looks encouraging.
There's 2 obviously kind of wee things. Obviously, Carter Vickers signing a new contract, and Callum McGregor made his 450th appearance, and I thought both did pretty well. Again, Carter Vickers, I think, only makes sense kind of keeping ties on when he's linked with a few clubs. McGregor, 450 appearances, he's done phenomenal. But I just think 2 things like that, like again, just good performances in terms of the solid. McGregor just does what he does. And Carter Vickers, I don't remember him in Scales really having much trouble.
Nah, they didn't. Carter Vickers signing new contract is absolutely huge. As much as you want to bring new talent and quality into the squad, it's pivotal you keep hold of the players that are there and fend off interest, particularly from Premier League teams, and that's what Celtic have done. I believe he's now one of the highest paid players at the club, and getting him down on a contract to 2029 is absolutely huge. So that was great to see. I think the announcement was meant to be kind of Saturday, but the rumour kind of got out and obviously announced it Friday afternoon. So that was a boost going into the game for the sports for Carter Vickers as well. But like you say, McGregor, 450 appearances is absolutely incredible. By the time October comes, he'll probably hit the 500 mark, which is absolutely colossal for a player who's still only 30 years of age to have that consistent quality in terms of performances is huge. He was given the man of the match yesterday by Celtic in the stadium, and I think that was probably deserved. So yeah, there was concerns at the start of the season that he wasn't really doing too well, but I feel like in the kind of month of December and going into the start of the year, I feel like he's upped his game. He was brilliant in the Glasgow derby. He was brilliant in the 3-1 win away at St Johnstone at the beginning of December. He's had some very good performances as McGregor, so he's improved, and it's only positive for himself and for the club and for Scotland going into the Euros at 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. One second before we get into the kind of post-match, the surface, Brendan Rodgers brought it up, that the surface just, again, it happens obviously this time of the year, but you would think that would be something that kind of needs to get addressed. If the manager wants it addressed, I would imagine that could be something that maybe happens sooner rather than later. It kind of I think it put a lot of players off their stride yesterday, especially the likes of O'Reilly and Bernardo, who are used to kind of getting the ball down. I thought they were a bit off it yesterday, and I don't think the pitch helped that.
Yeah, Matt O'Reilly brought it up after the Bucky Thistle game last weekend, unprompted. And then obviously Brendan was asked about it after the game yesterday, as was Alistair Johnston. And they both said it's not good enough. Brendan labelling it Celtic are a flagship club in Scotland, and it's a field, not a pitch, which is quite an interesting comment. So it has something that's going to need to be looked at in the summer. I think it was relayed as recently as summer 2022. And I think so.
Would be right,
certainly something that needs addressed and looked at, particularly like you say, it did look as if it was putting people off slight bobbles and guys are taking shots, things like that. So for Celtic is one of the 2 biggest clubs in the country, to have a pitch that is not the best in the country. And the style of football Celtic like to play, as we know, it's fast, it's playing out from the back, quick football. To have a pitch like that is not ideal, so it needs to be addressed. I'm sure it will.
Right, let's get into the post-match. Obviously, we heard once the full-time whistle went, there was some boos. I don't know if you were guilty of that, were you?
I certainly wasn't. I've never in my life booed Celtic.
Right, I have a problem here with this because I don't get that.
Yeah,
I don't get who it's aimed at. Is it aimed at? I get you can have bad performances. I get that, and there's been a few this season.
Yeah,
I don't get what it's for. Is it a recruitment? Is it? Do you know what I mean? Because
I think it's just. I completely agree with you. I don't even think one should boo their own team after the team loses, let alone after they win a match. I was actually quite annoyed walking out of the ground here, and so kind of just 30 seconds before stoppage time ended, I sat quite up high in the lower tier, so walking down the stairs, halfway down the stairs, the full-time whistle goes, and it's just embarrassing, frankly, in my humble opinion. Obviously, it's a free country. Fans pay good money to go to these games, £600, £700 in a season ticket, so they can express their views in any way they like. But for me to boo the team after they've won a match in tough conditions, they've arguably not had a real game in a while, because obviously Bucky Thistle, they're a low Highland League team, sorry. So yeah, I don't know, I think it's probably a culmination of frustrations from the fans. Obviously the performance, I think the Louis Palma double penalty miss didn't help the frustration in the ground. Obviously we know problems regarding recruitment, frustration towards the board, Peter Law, Mark Law, head of recruitment. So I think it's a culmination of frustrations, if I'm honest, that kind of grew the fans to boo at full time. It wasn't obviously widespread. It was only probably about a quarter of the ground being there live. That's what I certainly heard. It was nowhere near as loud as the jeers when Celtic lost 2-0 at Parkhead to Hearts in mid-December. But still frustrating to hear. I completely agree with you that there should have been no boos. Let's be honest. If they're going to direct frustrations, I'm sure there's certainly more other ways than they can do than booing the team they supposedly love and care about a lot. So yeah, it was not nice to hear, and it's a bit toxic, which is not great considering the team had just won a game. There's a video that went about of Alistair Johnston. I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter, or X as it's known now, of him after the game, Ross County players coming up to him, and it was just after the full-time whistle, and if you lip read Alistair Johnston, basically saying words to the effect of, we're the only team in the world that can win and get booed. So it's not nice to hear, but at the end of the day, people have their own frustrations and they can express their views the way they want. But in my opinion, that shouldn't be doing that.
The thing that gets me with it, and I'm not one for booing at all, especially your home fans. I get it to a degree if it's been like a bad defeat, like the Hearts game. I understood it.
Yeah.
But I think that was more aimed at the board and things like that.
Yeah,
but I think there's an overall kind of problem. But the thing that gets me is that you would say probably from the Rangers game up until now, Celtic have been pretty good in terms of the morale, the kind of music's been pretty fine. Recruitment's obviously a different thing, but results have been good. And I just didn't understand. I don't understand what it is. I don't understand what it is. And I think Brendan Rodgers' post-match comments are interesting. I'm just going to read this here and get your thoughts because I think it's better reading it, saying it, and getting an idea as to what this is. Because I think this kind of speaks volumes to me. I've had, regarding the boos, I've had that since I've been here. If it's not the result, it's me. If not me, the board. So all we can do as a team is win games and try to improve and develop and win. That's what the team has done. The team and ourselves as staff work hard every day together, and that's how we will continue to be. If it falls below the expectation, then we'll do everything we can to be better. I've spoken to a few Celtic fans between Saturday and as we're recording this, which is Sunday night. Some of them are saying it's Brendan Rodgers. They don't like the style of play. Some of them are saying it's recruitment. Some of them are saying, it was a poor performance at home to Ross County. There's no continuity there for me. There's three different reasons for booing. Now, I get the criticism towards the board because recruitment maybe hasn't been good enough. I think I've said this since the start, and I think I maybe said it in pods with you, and I think I maybe said it when Brendan was getting announced. There will always be a portion of the Celtic support who do not want Brendan Rodgers there. And I think this is the kind of bigger issue that is maybe going under the radar here. Those are the guys that are booing, in my opinion, because they are never going to be happy.
Yeah,
But they need to get over it. Do you know what I mean?
It's a fair point. I think I was initially, when Brendan was the prime target to come back as manager, I remember being on holiday at the time with my dad, and I was saying I don't want him back. He snaked Celtic before, etc., etc. But you get over that within about 5 days. I got over it, and that has to, I don't see why some of the Celtic fans can be so stubborn about it if that is the case. But just on the comments of Brendan, I think he was frustrated at the boos, which I think he has the right to be frustrated.
Yeah.
And that was evident in the comments he made. So yeah, pretty interesting. But like you said, Celtic have won 6 games in a row now. Considering up until the start of this run, they hadn't won 3 games in a row all season. Now won 6 games in a row. In those 6, conceded 1 goal, and that was James Tavernier's free kick. Absolutely brilliant goal. Conceded 1 goal in games away to Dundee, away to St Mirren, home to Rangers. It's been some very tough games in there, yet they've still managed to come away with 6 wins out of 6 now. This further backs up the point that I don't understand when people were booing after the game yesterday. Obviously, like you've said, culmination of kind of annoyances, etc. It's just, it's madness for me. Brendan obviously frustrated, given his post-match comments there, and like I've said, he has the right to be frustrated. I think the players have the right to be frustrated with some sections of the support after they booed, but I don't think it's predominantly aimed towards them. Predominantly probably aimed towards wider issues and just general frustrations there is. Even just logging on to Twitter and reading comments in some of Celtic's Twitter posts, you can see the majority of the fan base are in a general frustrated mood right now, and I think a lot of that is down to transfer business, if not all of it is down to transfer business.
I think as well that it's something that there is a portion of the support who can see that there is potentially a title race.
There's absolutely no denying.
And for modern day Celtic fans, with the exception of one season, is hard to get your head around. And it is. And I've spoke to a couple of people about it, and they've said they've never known. I remember the days where Rangers and Celtic were neck and neck, and there was a goal in the title race. That for a modern fan who's maybe kind of 15, 16, they've probably never seen that before. I think that is a factor as well. And
that's true. I think
can see a lot of fans having that mindset of how dare we be in this position. But it's football. Do you know what I mean?
And Rangers aren't going to go a whole 10, 11 years without. Obviously, they had the COVID season, bit of a one-off, granted, considering the amount of success Celtic have had. They're never going to go that length of time without giving Celtic a run for their money. But I think it's not just that. I think it's from the position Celtic were in the summer. They were streets ahead of Rangers. There is no denying that. And obviously, Ange Postecoglou leaves, Brendan comes in, and obviously the appointment of Clement over at Ibrox has been brilliant. There's no denying that, and he's improved them massively. But I think a lot of the frustrations do come from the fact that Celtic were in the position they were in the summer, losing some key players like Jota, arguably failing to replace them. And like we've said, the Brendan appointment was going to be divisive. There's absolutely no getting away from that fact, considering how he left the club in the past. So yeah, a lot of the frustration grow from that, but also, like you've said, there is a bit of, among some fans, that they are frustrated there's a title race, but the majority of people are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, go up from that, know that before there's been challenges and it's not going to last forever. But at the same time, there is an annoyance that those at the top of the club, the board, etc., have let us go from a position of utmost strength to a position where we're in a title race now.
And that's another thing as well, because I think we can probably have a weekly segment in the show for the board, but I do think there's a form of let's judge this at the end of the window, because we could be speaking here in a week's time and Celtic have brought in I think Rodgers said maybe 2.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's obviously they have until Thursday at 11:30 p.m. to get. Well, fans want a left back and a striker, and so far we've had Nicholas Kuhn come in the door. Obviously, I think personally, I believe Owen Beck would have been in by now had he not played for Liverpool. I think he'd have been signed, and I think there would have been no boos at full time on Saturday. If, let's say Owen Beck was announced on Friday afternoon, Carter Vickers' new contract, there would have been no boos at full time on Saturday if they'd signed a left back or even a striker like Sidney van Hooijdonk by now. So that tells you what a lot of the boos were probably down to, frustrations. But yeah, transfers. It's like a lot of Celtic fans have been saying, and well, not a lot, but some of the argument has been that January is a tough month to sign players. Just before I come on, I was doing a bit of research in the Premier League, and across the Premier League this January, now we know that's arguably one of the highest spending leagues in the world. Only £54.8 million has been spent by all of the clubs put together down south. Now that tells you how, number one, how hard it is to sign players in January and how sparse incomings can be. But you've got the counter argument, and the other side of that argument is that in the past, Celtic have shopped in markets where you can get that quality in January. Daizen Maeda, Rio Hatate, Alistair Johnston. Whether you look at the USA, you look at countries like Japan, whose seasons have just finished, it's easy to get that quality in there because their campaigns have just came to an end, rather than signing someone from teams in like the Netherlands who say saying top scorer in the Eredivisie. I have no clue who that is, or if it would be realistic, but it's very hard to prize them away halfway through their campaign. So maybe it's something where Celtic are looking in the wrong markets, and that's potentially why it's difficult. Because let's be honest, the only reason they were looking at Japanese and outside markets was because of Postecoglou, regardless of who was in charge of recruitment at the time. So yeah, maybe that's something that there's two sides to that argument, but there's no getting away from the fact that there needs to be a left back and a striker in before the end of the January transfer window on Thursday. Will it happen? I'm not sure. I don't have a lot of full confidence. I think it's 50-50 in probably both positions. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
Regarding Sidney van Hooijdonk, there was chat last night that he's been left out because there's a move to Celtic imminent. I don't think it's as far along as that. And I know there's interest, but I do see that avenue. But is Sidney van Hooijdonk enough? Like, is he?
It's a good question. So you look at boys 23 years of age. If I think what the name has got a lot of Celtic fans excited. You look at Pierre when he was at Celtic. I've only seen videos of him. My dad probably tells me a lot of how much he was a good player compared to what I actually know from kind of the 80s, 90s. So Sidney is 23 years of age. He's at Bologna. It's not worked out for him at all this season, but last season in the Eredivisie with Heerenveen, he scored 16 goals in 30 appearances for a team who finished 8th in the league. And he was the third top scorer in division. Celtic signed Georgios Giacomakis from the Eredivisie as top scorer, so that can kind of give you an idea of the quality that he can possess. And I've been watching a couple of videos of him over the past few days now. We all know YouTube videos can make anyone look good. The likes of me and you could probably look good in YouTube videos of our clips over the years. What they do give you is a good idea of the style of play that the player has. Now, he's a penalty box striker. He's tall. And from the goals that he's scored, he's always seemed to be in the right place at the right time. Now, having a striker like that who can pounce on rebounds in the box, he's also very good in the air, is something I noticed. Scored a lot of headers. And for Celtic, like we were touching on earlier, he's a good penalty taker. He's taken 10 penalties throughout his career and never missed one. So if they're looking to solve the penalty issue and sign a striker, they can kill two birds with one stone and sign Sidney van Hooijdonk. If it was to happen, I think it would only be a 6-month loan. Is there going to be an option to buy at the end of that? I'm not sure. On his lack of inclusion in the squad last night, I think Thiago Motta, the manager of Bologna, is on record today saying it was due to illness. So there you go. And he also said, Sidney, as long as he trains hard, he was asked about the transfer and he's training hard, blah, 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 words to that effect. He's not going to give anything away, is he? But there undoubtedly is interest there. there's been interest since the summer in Van Hooijdonk from Celtic, so it's certainly one to keep an eye on. If I was to put money on it, I think it could be an 11th hour 6-month loan signing, and I wouldn't be against it. I certainly wouldn't be against it. Yeah, I think he could do a job given his goal record in the Eredivisie, but there's still parts of his game that need to be developed because he's only 23, 24 years of age. So the name would also get Celtic fans excited of going through his Twitter, as Celtic fans do. There have been a lot of tweets that have come up of him at Celtic games, watching Celtic games, posting green love hearts on Twitter, etc. So he does like Celtic and he is a fan. So obviously, given his dad's played for the club in the past, so I think he would be eager to move, considering he has the chance to come in midway through a season and help the team with goals towards a title and potentially a Scottish Cup as well. So he would relish the opportunity. I think he would want to come, but it's just about if a deal can be reached.
Right, so I'm going to ask you as a fan, what would you be happy with? Say, if there's no signings between now and the end of the window, I think there will be. Rightfully, I think the manager will probably be the most agitated out of everybody that there's been no signings. But what is acceptable? Can you just sign a striker? Does it need to be a striker and left back minimum? With Taylor been injured, we don't know how long Taylor's injured for. What is acceptable?
I think a striker and a left back is acceptable. Chat of a goalkeeper.
Short term enough, or
it depends. It depends. I think it's Owen Beck was a long term one. He'd have come in probably in a loan with a buy option or even a permanent option straight away. So that was mentioned before he came on for Liverpool and made his appearance. But now, after that's now dead in the water, I would think probably a short term solution on a loan is something that's probably going to be looked at if we do sign a left back. But just on acceptability, striker and a left back minimum has to be for me, and that's probably the maximum you're going to get as well, because a goalkeeper will have to wait until this summer. I believe there's been talks, interest, paper talking Quaivan Kelleher, Hakon Valdimarsson, who recently signed for Brentford, but goalkeeper's one for the summer. So yeah, they need a striker, obviously, given Kyogo's form. Is it going to be the Asian Cup for at least the next couple of weeks? And if one of them gets injured, you're stuck with one striker. So a striker is a must, and left back is, for me, an even bigger must. I think we need to sign a left back more than we need to sign a striker. Bernabei's performance at the weekend, you'd expect him to come in against Ross County and play really well, considering absolutely no disrespect to Ross County, but that's an ideal game for a left back, particularly of his style, to do well in, and he didn't. And Taylor, is he of the highest standard of a Celtic left back? Probably not. So you can improve on Taylor, no doubt. So there needs to be improvements made. A left back is one that has to be addressed. It's been long, since Kieran Tierney left the club, Celtic haven't really had a firm, solid, starting quality left back. Whereas we've not had a left back in the form of a player like Josip Juranovic or Alistair Johnston. You need that type of player and that type of quality. That's what they need to be aiming for at left back. Suffered with players like Diego Laxalt, Volleyball and Golly. Now, I'm not saying Greg Taylor's anywhere near the levels of those players because he's better than them, but he's still not of that high calibre, the highest calibre. So I think that's something that needs to be addressed between now and the end of the window, and it's just disappointing because I thought Beck was going to be the one. Yeah.
And I think we're going to be sitting here from now until Thursday kind of thinking what's going to happen. But we're going to have a deadline day special on Thursday where we'll have a few fans on from different clubs. We'll be talking about the deadline day. So Josh, I want to thank you very much for being on this show. Sorry it wasn't a better game to talk about, but a lot of transfer talk. It's been a pleasure, mate.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure as usual. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you very much, mate. Thank you very much for tuning in, folks. Please subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channel and subscribe to our Patreon. Thanks, folks.